Woo! Hey everybody, Jim Salmons here, and welcome to the Kayak Fishing Show Live, brought to you by all these wonderful sponsors scrolling across the bottom there. Ballast Point Brewing Company, although we're doing water today. Seagar, who has been a great sponsor of mine for a long time and had a great conversation with them today. And Yakattack, who's going to be with us today. Jackson Kayak, of course. Seagler Reels, got his shirt on today because we're in Virginia. Standard Horizon. I mean, all these great sponsors. NRS. So a couple things I wanted to kind of announce today. Because of the change of moving away from my producer, and because this happened very, very late in what would be my shooting season, and because I have a torn rotator cuff in my shoulder, and because I got a screwed up back, I have decided to take the 2022 airing season off. I'm going to begin shooting in 2022 for 2023 airing season. Now, that's not to say I'm not going to continue doing this stuff and doing side projects and, the social media end of things. We just won't have a TV airing season in 2022. It just wasn't working out timing wise, and I wasn't going to be able to make the shows that I really wanted to make. And thankfully, talked to all of my sponsors, and they are all 100% on board with me. And they're like, whatever's going to work best so you can make the best shows. And they're behind me. So I'm really, really happy about that. With that said, I also have my big screen TV up going on in the other room because you guys may pay attention. I love baseball, and there's a baseball game on starting like right now. So hopefully the Atlanta Braves beat the Dodgers because we are Dodger haters here in San Diego. Say hello to a couple people. Alan Thomas, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining us. Liam, always joining us from Kayak Fishing Tales. So anybody who's new to this, we are also on Kayak Fishing Tales, which is our YouTube channel. So thank you for joining us there. And Bobby Tucker, thanks for joining us. Douglas Gaxiola, man, old friend from kayak fishing around here. That's unfortunately going to get the shoulder repaired. I'm debating. I did get a cortisone injection 2 days ago, or probably 4 days ago now. And literally 2 days after I got my shoulder injected on, my back went south on me. So it's just like getting old, falling apart, all that good stuff. So I'm going to spend some time healing, maybe get the injection. I don't know. Still trying to decide. So really, really stoked today. And for you guys that are maybe new to the show, we like to bring on guests. We air old episodes of the show. And when I can, I bring on guys who were on the shoots with us. Very stoked to have a couple of guys on with us today that were on this shoot in Virginia. And even more so with John Hipsher joining us from Yakatttack, who said, hey, do you want to give something away? And so anybody who participates, asks questions, any of that sort of thing, will be up for a random drawing to win a $100 gift certificate from Yakatttack, which is super cool. So with that said, I'm going to bring John Hipsher up. John, how are you, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on.
You got the best backdrop.
I was going to put up a whole trade show backdrop, but I realized that my ceiling is a little too short. So I said that I think Jim would like to see Jim in the backdrop. So I kept it.
Can't get enough of Jim. So our other guest who was on the shoot with us, my buddy Josh Dolin, who's been doing some amazing stuff, and we're going to get into what he's been doing. but this guy's a big fish animal and been crushing it. And he's got a really cool project that we're going to talk about before we get the episode going. So fucking Adam. Josh, how are you, man?
Good. Can you guys hear me first and foremost?
Loud and clear.
Perfect. Good to see you guys. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Nice shirt.
Yeah, felt like it was appropriate.
Both got our Siegler shirts on. Although this episode is where we visit Yakattack and do the walkthrough there. Next week, for people who want to join us, actually Wes is going to join me, Wes Siegler, because we kind of do walk through how it's made kind of thing at Siegler Reels. So that'll be super fun. So guys, I don't remember how much, because this was in 2016, I think we shot this. So you guys will notice when you start watching this, a very noticeable difference in the appearance of John Hipsher, because
I shrank a little bit.
Your beard shrank. Your beard was, I just flipped through it. I didn't watch the episode, but I was just scrolling through it. And man, you had quite the facial hair. And man, I'm proud of you. You've lost over 100 pounds, haven't you?
Yeah. I guess that the peak was about 115 pounds, and I'm kind of like 105 right now. I've kind of leaped back over to some like powerlifting, bodybuilding world to try to pack on some muscle, but still sticking with it. You know, it's kind of been a good life change. And I mean, it was 2019, right after Paddle Sports Retailer. I said the next day we're coming back as the next day we're starting this diet, and went full keto. And I think I've eaten bread twice since, you know, and really eliminated carbs and sugar. And I eat meat and vegetables, but you know, I enjoy that. So it's a diet that I can stick with for a very long time. And you know, I mean, I bike to work half the week, you know, and I'm always active, and made some just good overall life changes of getting up early and putting in the sweat and getting it done before I even go to work. So it's been some good life changes, but it's always funny looking back on whether it's old videos or old pictures, that we were at the Kayak Bass Fishing National Championship last week. And there was literally, I think, 3 or 4 occasions that someone's like, oh yeah, I've watched the rod holder video. You know, that guy really explained it pretty, you know, thoroughly well, you know, and then they were like, are you his cousin? Like, are you guys related? And I was like, no, it's me, dude. But they didn't believe it. So I had to show them some, you know, here's the before and after pictures that I've got, like a cool snakehead picture where it's one giant snakehead over here and I'm big, you know, big and bearded, and the other snakehead, it's even a bigger snakehead, but I'm smaller. So pretty funny overall, but
that's
good.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I've tried the keto. It's worked really well for me. I just can't stay on it. I do it really, really solid for a while. And it's like, wow, you know what sounds good? Pizza.
I mean, I don't crave any of that. Like, I don't crave sweets. I don't crave, you know, any carbs, actually. I mean, for me, it's just, I'd rather eat meat and vegetables. And it's been funny to see the kind of repercussion of what's happened, you know, after the fact of I never went out to make it kind of a social viral thing. It was always just for me. But, you know, even watching someone like Chad, you know, or even my mom is like 66 years old and down 105 pounds. Like, it's,
that's awesome.
I'm more happy about that with her than I am even with myself, because she literally just retired. And I mean, she's in more of a bulletproof kind of, you know, hardcore mindset right now than I am, just getting after it.
That's impressive. And like I said, I mean, I do it really, really hard. I did it really hard for about a year, lost weight. My thing was my blood sugar. I was trying to get blood sugar under control, and it really, really worked. And then I kind of, I don't know, maybe from sitting around the house during COVID stuff and all that, it just kind of fell off the keto wagon. So now I kind of but carbs are the devil. So even if you can just limit them, it really helps.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about kayak fishing and other types of fishing. And before we get to Josh and what he's doing, I want to, and before we get to the episode and all that, John, what is going on at Yakatttack? I mean, since this episode, like I said, we shot it in 2016, so I know some stuff has changed. And you guys have got a lot more. You guys have always got new products coming out. So, anything you could tell us about, or sneak peek about, or anything you're excited about?
Well, I mean, since this episode, I mean, we've completely moved different facilities. This was back to our old. I mean, honestly, we almost owned an entire town that we were in 3 or 4 different buildings. Like the town had like 300 people in it. We're now in I think the building's close to about 70,000 square feet. And during the peak this summer, I think we had around 70 employees. So, it's going to be funny watching this episode going, in the old building, in the old stock room, or just seeing, in general of where we came
the old
from.
building? I thought you guys had just moved into the new building. I thought that's what this was. Or you guys were building a building next to it?
Well, we've moved towns entirely now. So at this point in time, we went from 2 small buildings to 4 small buildings in a town called Burkeville. So it was a small little freestanding building, but we were still manufacturing over here and then transporting it like 2 miles away to then be fulfilled and shipped to our dealers and consumers. And now
I do remember that. Yeah.
We're under one giant roof, and it's kind of interesting because Luther, our president, he started his manufacturing career 1 building over from us where we are now. And that was, 30 years ago or 25 years ago, whatever that time frame was. And he always remembers looking at this building, being like, what are they making there? Being like, it's just such a big building that now, we're in here rigging the dream, making kayak stuff happen. So, but overall, like it's just the evolution of Yakatttack that, this past week, was the first trade show I did in 2 years. We kind of took some of those costs and really invested in ourselves from a manufacturing standpoint. So we're more optimized and we're making product faster and quicker and better to where, for like our dealers and our, even consumers too, but our dealers, they've struggled to get product this year from everybody. And it's just, it's the COVID effect of the sporting goods apocalypse that COVID made getting outside cool again. And so it's been tough to get kayaks. It's been tough to get, rods and reels or PFDs and paddles. And so for us, our goal was to be the most efficient in the industry to where if a dealer orders, I ship it out in 3 to 4 days.
So I'm guessing you guys don't have a bunch of stuff stuck on a freighter off of Long Beach.
No, and we're weird, and I probably talked about this last time, but like essentially where I'm sitting, we design our molds, 20 yards that direction. We make molds in-house and we do all our own injection molding, assembly, and then fulfillment all with under this one roof. So besides maybe some hardware that has to come from overseas, or third parties that are anodizing our, aluminum or doing our extrusions for our aluminum, everything happens under one roof, so we got ahead of the curve when it comes to supply of raw goods and materials. And we've been pretty good, pretty efficient. So, really since COVID, that's been really the biggest, kind of investment and change is, investing in ourselves to get ahead of the curve and better supply our dealers and community and the paddlers that have always supported us. So that's the big ones. There's some cool new products that we have come out with. And I'll just talk about those real briefly.
Sure.
So, the first cool one was, honestly, it was a product idea I kind of walked in here about 7 years ago with, but it's
I'm going to give you the whole screen here so you can show it maybe a little bit better.
Cool. So it's essentially a cool offset paddle holder. So essentially the one thing with the rotor grip is it works better with 2, having that point of contact, with 2 paddle holders gripping the paddle, whether it's 8 inches apart or, on one side on each kayak, 2 feet apart. That's when you're getting the best hold. So what the double header does is the double header makes it to where you can mount the track mount on the track, and then your paddle itself is going to be offset from the boat, from the track. So it opens up the rest of the track that's on your kayak for, any other gear, whether it's a fish finder mount or a cup holder. So like this guy has done exceptionally well from being a simple little kind of evolution of where the rotor grip came from. It has some built-in tethers in it to where you can really lock it in place. And we've seen some guys, even this past week, they had, whether they had like a little short-handled net to land fish with, they were putting that in here, locking it in place, and that mounts the track and offsets everything. So keeps it handy. So that's going to be the double header. And that one,
that thing is cool. Really cool on my Blue Sky. And I think particularly appeals to any of the pedal boats to get that paddle kind of out off the side a little bit. And the way it locks the paddle in place, it's super cool. Great product.
And then I'd say kind of the Yakatttack way is you design something and it does 10,000 different things. So essentially the track mount itself, the double header, we made it to where you could attach almost any track mounted accessory. So in this case, what I'm running this, right and left of me. So I have 4 easy to access and grab rod holders. But essentially, the sky's the limit whether you'd want to attach, one would be a camera mount, one would be a rod holder, but it's just really maximizing your track space and give you tons of versatility of what you can mount within a tight space. And it's kind of funny how the evolution of our product design worked in that sense, because we designed one product and we ended up kind of pivoting at the last moment and saying, hey, let's go with this one attachment, kind of the V mount that is the double header. But essentially we also made what we call the sidearm, which is a single pivot that you can attach to the track, and you can mount it in any direction. And once you tighten that down, it creates a simple little mighty mount on the end, where any of our track mounted accessories are plug and play in that as well. So that creates a unique little offset, whether you do, one rod holder, whether you have a rod holder here and then a roto grip here.
Or even getting your camera mount off to the side a little bit.
Yeah.
That's super cool. That's super cool.
Even shown with it actually is a new roto grip. You can see it kind of has larger wheels than in the past. This one's specifically made for our park and pole, our stakeout push pole, that is just a little bit smaller diameter than a regular diameter of a paddle. So we made some larger wheels, made it work great. So there's finally a track mounted solution for anglers that are using our park and pole. So that's essentially really the newest of the new. And then kind of in general, we just kind of took delivery of a new injection molding machine I think it's 4 times the size of our original machine. So it really maximizes the possibility of what we can do. So I know 2 hot projects that I can't really touch, can't really expose and preview too much, but that machine's, I think, being wired in next week, and we're working on, our mold bases now and kind of dialing in some technology that we do with our mold making capabilities and our injection molding process to where it's going to open up some cool possibilities. So I'd say later this fall, early winter, probably maybe some holiday ship dates, or first thing next year, you'll see. I think it's 2 things that people have been really, really wanting from Yakattack. So I'm just going to leave a little bit of an Easter egg, but not too much to where you can see where it's hiding. But it's coming soon.
Well, you guys are always, there's always something new and always something innovative, which is very, very cool. So we got that. Josh, I've been following you, man, for a long time. You've had a pretty incredible little adventure just recently that, man, just like big fish. I love big fish. That's my thing. I'm not out there to catch bass.
Right.
I'll go catch bass, but that's not my thing. And so the stuff you've been doing appeals to me. And
sure.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about this last adventure you had?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So it kind of spawned out of nowhere. Like many others, I didn't get to do exactly what I wanted to do in 2020. We were all kind of tied up with the COVID stuff, so everybody sort of stayed home. So all these big trips I had planned for last year never happened. So I vowed this year I was going to do some cool stuff and make the most out of whatever time I had. So I have the fortunate part about being in the fishing world, which you guys both know, is you make friends everywhere. So all you have to really do is make a couple of phone calls and connect a couple dots, and you can make a pretty cool trip happen almost out of thin air. So that's essentially what we did. I have a buddy of mine, David Graham, who lives in Fort Myers, Florida. He and I have fished a few times together, various places, usually in Florida or Virginia. And we both, we connected initially on alligator gar, which I know you fished with Bubba Bedre down in Texas, and that's an experience all in itself. So
right.
He and I kind of decided, that was where we met each other sort of online, and that's, kind of where we wanted to pick up with this next big trip. So the overall, I guess, itinerary was Virginia to Texas, get to Texas, fish there for a week for alligator gar, leave Texas, go to Idaho, fish for a week in Idaho for white sturgeon, and then come home. So it's this big kind of circumnavigation of the middle of the United States. I try to do these big crazy trips, and I try to up the ante every time. So to my knowledge, which I'm sure it's been done, so I don't want to claim anything that's, already been done or anything. I don't want any heat. But to my knowledge, I hadn't seen anybody online that's done alligator gar and white sturgeon in the same like road trip. So especially driving and like kind of pulling your own weight. So that was the plan. We go to Texas, we try to get a trophy alligator gar, then we go to Idaho, and we try to get a trophy white sturgeon, all within maybe like the same road trip or maybe even the same like 24, 48 hour span. So luckily, everything, as much as things went wrong on this trip, which they totally did, and I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit. Everything that went wrong, we were paid tenfold back with the fish that we were able to catch. So it was pretty incredible. We got 4 trophy alligator gar between the two of us. That's just a fish over 6 foot. So we had 2 right at 7 and then 2 over 6, and then a bunch of 50 to 80 pounders. And then we had 8 white sturgeon over 7 foot, with 4 of them being over 8 foot, with an 8.5 footer being the largest. So it was quite the run, and I don't think I'll be able to replicate that with that number of big fish in that short amount of time, probably ever again in my life. But it was pretty crazy. So it was a 7,500 mile round trip. I towed a boat the whole way. Right off the bat, blew a trailer tire out in Louisiana on the way to Texas. Blew it out in the middle of nowhere, 4 a.m. I'm out there on the side of the road, got the trailer tire swapped out. I know I needed gas, and I'm driving towards Texas, kind of got sidetracked with a blowout, and before I realized it, I'm pulling into the teeth of where Hurricane Ida had passed through, and naturally all the gas stations are closed. So it was immediately a code red situation. So I ended up having to pull over, take boat gas from my boat gas tank, and pour it into my truck to get enough gas to make it the 30 miles to the next, province and actually get gas. So that was kind of a nail biting situation right off the bat. Killed an alternator. But prior to that, I killed an alternator in the truck in Atlanta. Was able to get that swapped out at my cousin's house. Thankfully, I have family there. So I killed an alternator, blew a tire out, almost ran out of gas, all before we got to Texas. And then our first day on the water, we stayed out extra long. Catching bait pretty much anywhere always seems to be the most difficult thing for whatever reason. Just getting the fish to be able to fish is always kind of a pain in the rear. But we stayed out all day until about 9:30 at night catching bait, and we come back to the ramp. David runs up to my truck and hops in the truck and tries to pull it down. Immediately there's like a major problem. He's telling me, it's grinding, it's not making the correct noises it needs to make. And you know how Texas, especially East Texas, their boat ramps are haphazard at best. So it's basically a sandbox with a concrete slab in it, and it was pretty rough on the truck. And I go up and check it out, and the CV axle, the 4-wheel drive axle for the truck's just hanging off. It just self-detonated. And so we're 9:30 at night just with a major mechanical failure, and it was a very defining moment on where the trip was going to go. Either we were going to kind of bite the bullet and deal with it, or we're just kind of going to turn tail and put the truck in the shop and waste a couple days. And we ended up, I have a friend there as well, Brian Thornton. He lives in East Texas there. I gave him a call. He was able, very generously, I don't know if I would have done it, but he got up at 10:30 at night, drove an hour, hooked the trailer up, pulled the boat out of the water, got us back to a hotel, and then came back the next morning. And he and I fixed the truck, put a new CV axle in, working in basically a sandbox. If anybody, I shared some photos on Instagram. Literally, the sand is 1.5 feet deep. It could not be a worse place to work on a vehicle. But while we were doing that, David was able to, this is kind of the coolest part about the whole situation, David was able to go and scrounge through a trash can, which this is a popular fishing area. So, there's a bunch of fishing junk everywhere. He found a cast net that somebody had discarded because it was missing like 80% of the circumference of it was basically detached and just ratty. He found some used fishing line. He was able to tie this net back together and make it serviceable. And while we're fixing the truck, he goes out and catches, a bunch of buffalo and carp in the cast net that he found. So it was quickly, like as he's walking back with bait, we're lowering the truck off the jack stands. And it's like, okay, like things are like the momentum's shifting. And next day we were able to get our first 2 big fish. And I mean, everything went pretty well from there on out. So it was just, it was one of those things where, you know, we had that happen. We had the boat got covered in mud and then covered in these white flies. We had a biblical hatch of bugs while we were out on the water one night, and it basically just tarred and feathered my entire boat. It was disgusting.
I think I saw a picture of that. I mean,
yeah,
it was just thick with bugs, right?
Yeah. So that was the next night. So we get out, I catch my 7-foot fish. He catches a 6-foot fish after dark, 6'2". And like, we're rolling back in the dark, going back to the boat ramp for the night. And it's like, oh, there's a lot of bugs out here. And then it was just like, just hellfire. Like, there's so many bugs. And I mean, I have my eyes closed. They're going in my eyes, my mouth, butt crack, down my shirt, beard. I mean, man, there were bugs everywhere. So we get back to the ramp and we pull out, and there's literally 4 inches of bugs just in the bottom of the boat. And it's just the smell, if you can imagine, carp and mud and alligator gar and bugs, and just, it was just not good. So we got that cleaned out. Had some big motor issues, had some trolling motor issues. I mean, we broke pretty much everything you can break in a trip, but it went really well. So,
well,
I mean, other than that,
as I always say, it's the trips that go super smooth and all that, you never really remember that well. It's the ones where stuff goes wrong and goes sideways, or you run into some real characters. Those are the ones that you have those memories that you continually tell the stories about over the years. Because I mean, as I said, if everything goes smooth, it's not that memorable.
No.
You know, it's like when you have somebody who falls out of their kayak and catches a marlin in the first 15 minutes of the day and has never even caught a fish off a kayak. Those are the things you remember. You know, it's just like the stuff that goes sideways. So before we go too much longer, anybody, people that are watching here, again, if you comment, ask questions, anything like that, share this. John has very kindly offered up a $100 gift certificate from Yakatttack. I will give people a chance who are watching this on the replay. So to also comment or share. So I won't be drawing a winner for this for at least 24 hours. So you still have a chance. If you're watching on the replay, please make a comment, share with your friends. We're supposed to be getting to airing this old episode, but these are, I mean, such good stories. But Josh, I mean, I know you've got plans. You're trying to turn this into a show, or at least a video. I know you said you videotaped the whole thing. It sounds like it's going to be freaking epic.
Yeah. So just quickly, because I know we have to move on. Everything was filmed. We got some pretty incredible footage just overall, and then we have some pretty unique camera shots we were able to capture. My buddy Steve out in Caldwell, Idaho, who I fish with the white sturgeon, he's a fabricator, so we were able to come up with this 360 cam underwater shot. We got some we have an 8-foot sturgeon eating our bait on camera. We have some incredible casting shots. We have some drive-by shots with the camera, almost taking the camera out with the jet motor. I mean, it's truly incredible. So but yeah, I'm working on getting this to a streaming service. So truthfully, Amazon Prime seems to be the easiest route for what I want to do right now. They have a kind of an affiliate program the way YouTube does. You can package up either one show like a documentary style or an episodic show like what you run. And you can package it, take it to them. They can give you feedback, approve it, disapprove it, sort of let you know what you need to work on. And that's my main goal right now. So I'm trying to self-fund this thing, get 8 to 10 episodes done. We're going to Florida this weekend for Goliath groupers. So we're going to try to get a Goliath grouper from the beach. So we're targeting those big fish that people want to see on camera. And we're doing it pretty much self-filming it. I edit, produce, film. I'm pretty much a one-man band. So the idea is to get that first season done and have kind of a proof of concept, and then take that to a video distribution company and maybe see what we can do. So it's a lot of moving parts right now, but I told you back in 2017 that that's kind of what I want to do with my time. So just working at it right now, and we're gonna kind of see where it goes from there.
So before we get this episode airing, if somebody does want to see your stuff, is there any place somebody can at least see some of those photos, anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So all the photos from the trip, that's going to be the thing you can see most immediate. It's on Instagram, so it's at havrods_will-travel. I've posted all the stuff from Texas. I'm starting to post the stuff from Idaho now. That's going to be where you're going to be able to see the most immediate content. Right now, still a ton of editing to do with all that stuff and all the footage. So that probably won't reach YouTube on any capacity. We're kind of saving that for the streaming service. So, but yeah, that's the best way right now.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna crank through a couple of questions and comments here. It's mainly just comments, and then we'll get this episode rolling. Rick Edwards watching again. If you can watch these on Kayak Fishing Tales, which is our YouTube channel, on the Kayak Fishing Show page on Facebook, as well as the Kayak Fishing Show group. I do highly encourage people to sign up for the YouTube channel, or subscribe, I should say, or join the Kayak Fishing Show group, because those are the ways that you are most likely to be notified when we're doing live shows. If you're just on the Kayak Fishing Show page, Facebook sends out our stuff to less than 1% of our followers. So it's pretty tough to get a good viewer base when they're not actually sending it out to the people who want to see it. So, but if you're in the group, you're more likely to see it. And again, if you're on Kayak Fishing Tales. So, but anyway, so Kevin says, okay, I'm listening. Eric says, hey, Jim, and welcome Yakatttack. And Kevin says, that's great. And John, congrats on the weight loss. Bobby says, that's awesome. Under one roof with everything. Let's see what else we got here. Bobby says, what's coming for 2022? We did kind of tease that a little bit, and I know there's going to be some cool stuff. And the cool thing is I got a great relationship with the folks at Yakatttack, so whenever anything new comes out, they usually send it to me pretty quick, and I get to share it with y'all. So, or we bring John back and let him do the run-through. Alan Thompson says, we need new gear in Western Canada. Alan, Dynamite Products and Versatility. Craig, watching on Kayak Fishing Tales. What's up, John? Craig Rashears.
Yeah, local guy. Local team guy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Kevin, you should come to or sponsor November's Calusa Blue Way Yak Tournament.
I think we usually send some gear gift cards. I think, but we might have missed it last year. But I think we do send some gear. But please contact us if that organizer hasn't already.
Yeah, and that's a cool place. We actually filmed that event last year, and or it was the year before. It was whenever it was before COVID, and just had some really terrible weather. Craig says, am I stopping in at Siegler next week? That'll be part 2 of our Virginia trip. And we get to fish with Wes and more just joke around and have a good old time. Glenn says, will the paddle holder be strong enough to hold a super stick on a solo skiff? The SS is sized... I don't know if you can see that.
Well, I'd have to check that diameter. Basically, the diameter of the parking pole is 0.84 inches in diameter. So I think the super stick, that's more of a traditional stakeout pole that's going to be a little thicker in diameter. So if it's closer to, I have to look back into what an actual paddle is. I think it's 1.2 1.2, but I might be wrong with that.
So send a question to Yakattack, and they'll probably be able to answer for you there.
Just send it to our Facebook page or Instagram page with that exact product, and I'll look up the specs.
Our buddy Douglas is watching in Brazil. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate you watching as always. And oh wait, got more there. Other things were popping up. All of a sudden, it started scrolling past my face. Facebook user. So this is a typical Facebook user. Hi guys, Josh. Still want to get one of them biggins. You need to, if you're in the Facebook group, you do need to hit that link that comes up in the description of the video to give StreamYard the right to use your name. Otherwise, it comes up as Facebook user, and we don't know who you are. So, and Chuck says he's envious of the big fish opportunities. So, oh, well, I'll bring this last one up, and then we'll get this episode going. From James Macbeth. Canadians are better looking. Better looking than what?
No comment.
I think there's a little bit of bias there, just a slight bias.
Yeah, better looking than what? Thanks for joining us, James. So, guys, like I said, this was 2016. We did some. I don't remember, honestly. This trip was a while back. I don't recall the fishing being very good.
No, in true kayak fishing show fashion, it rained profusely about 3 days before you got here. So it was a little rough. It was a little rough.
But it was a cool place to paddle. I actually was scrolling because I had to bring up some photos. And I was scrolling through the photos, and there was that one area that we launched from that was just like full of sketchy people. And there was one,
like every area.
It's most places along that spot.
Yeah.
And the one dude, like we called him Captain Sweatpants. He had his like sweats up here. I don't remember who he was, but I saw him in a photo, and it's like, oh, yeah. But I remember that one parking lot was very sketchy.
Yeah. It Richmond, it's a place of many faces, and you never know what you're going to deal with whenever you get down to the water there. Most people are fine, but yeah, that photo there. So that is Jim Salmon standing underneath of a Norfolk and Southern Railroad bridge. That spot is
the one behind me.
Oh yeah, the one behind you. Yep. So there's a giant fish on the screen right now, but but no, it's a cool place, man. And you came during the shad run. Just a background for the people that are watching. This episode was filmed during Richmond's shad run. So essentially, all of the seagoing shad species and baitfish species come up into the James in the springtime. That's when Jim came. The only side effect is it's spring, so we get spring weather. And as you can see in that photo, kind of behind us here, it was chocolate milk. So like we talked about earlier, catching bait becomes tough, and then catching the fish becomes tough because you don't have bait. So we did our best to work with what we had, but could have been better, could have been worse.
Yeah, we had a good time. I know that. I remember it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, and we do some fishing, and we visit Yakatttack, and we get to see how they do things, and it's pretty cool. So let's get this thing rolling. And I'm going to drop us out, guys. Actually, that's not what I wanted to do. That's what I want to do. So we can still talk over it.
Welcome back. We're on the James River and in Virginia, and we're going to be targeting catfish and stripers and shad. And two of those fish I've never caught before. So hoping to add a couple new fish to my species list. I think we're going to get it. These guys really know what they're doing. So let's get
So
out.
before that trip, you had never caught either a catfish or a striper.
I'd never
God,
caught
look
a.
at that guy.
I had never caught a shad
And a catfish?
and the catfish because they were blue cats or something. Is what we were
Yeah,
targeting?
we have blue cats and flatheads in Virginia, but this time of year when this was filmed, it's typically mainly blue cats.
Yeah, so that's what I had never caught. I'd caught striper before. Your beard is bigger now, Josh.
Yeah, man, that is a guy that life hasn't beaten down too much. No, I'm just kidding. No, I went into witness protection shortly after this, so that's what the hair and the beard's all about.
Gotcha.
Traveling down to my home waters in the great city of Richmond, Virginia, targeting blue catfish, shad, and some white perch.
I mean, obviously, this is Georgia water.
James River is known for some of the biggest blue cats in the world. Virginia has the state record blue catfish at 143 pounds and some change. So they're definitely here. They definitely have the size. There's plenty for them to eat.
So you want to have, I mean, you want to be geared appropriately. These Seagler reels and everything. They'll do the job on this fish.
Just the right amount of drag to put the hurt on. We're not if you're really after a monster cat, you might use this thing whole. But what we're doing is we're just making these into pretty much steaks. We'll get on a fish this size, which just is a really hefty sized hickory shad. We'll get maybe 3 or 4 pieces of cut bait out of this. You want the gut pocket with all the juice in there, but once you get back towards the tail, we just kind of toss that out. It doesn't have enough flavoring in there to really entice anything.
How about to rig up? A cold day on the James River in Richmond.
Look at that guy.
It's the beard. I mean, the beard was just giant. Now it's non-existent. Which is the most facial hair I've had in 2 years.
Dude, you lost most of your weight in that beard.
I mean, it was the day I shaved it. I waited till waited till the end, shave it off.
Yeah, that's totally what I'm gonna do. Hey Jim, it's a little quiet, man. I don't know if you have any control over that.
And you're a little loud for some reason. I paused it for a second here. They say that I have control over volume, but I'm not seeing that I have control over volume anywhere. And I was actually looking for that earlier today and couldn't find it. So, yeah, I guess we're kind of stuck with it unless me just turning it up louder. Because literally, Josh, you are super loud. And I know on this software, I had seen not long ago that you could adjust volumes per channel, but I have never been able to find it. So maybe I ought to look that up next time before I do another show.
I'll just try to whisper.
Yeah, because you are loud.
Oh, that's art reflects life, man.
Well, let's keep her rolling.
Exactly that. Little fella's chomping on him. Probably big blue crab. There it is. There. Oh.
Josh, do you still have the old tuna? Is that still in
Yeah, man.
cards?
I have 2 of them. I have 2 of them, and then I use a different kayak through ARC pretty regularly. But the tuna comes out when I need to just kind of run quick. So I'll take it down to Florida, fish for this canal thing, canal species and stuff like that. So it's still in rotation.
When's the last time you used it tandem?
Sometimes you need to take live bait.
Oh, geez. I've used it tandem maybe like 5 times ever. It's usually running tandem with just me in it.
Pieces of live bait
Is it louder now?
Yeah.
cut up all of my big pieces of shad and keep
Well,
all that bloody mess down below the deck so I don't
thank
have
you,
to worry
Chuck.
about it getting in the
That
way.
worked.
It was a good, stable, wide platform. I can put rod holders on it. And honestly, I know I'm a big guy, but I can stand in it just fine. So pretty much anything that I needed to do, the big tuna helped me get it done.
How you pinning that thing on?
You go right through the bottom jaw, out the top of the nose. That keeps the bait from swinging and catching the point of that circle hook. Good amount of bone in there too, so just like that. So if a little guy comes along and pecks at it, or little blue crabs, whatever, you're not going to lose your bait.
Am I letting them eat it?
You're letting them eat it. They're going to hit it. They're going to, well, when we drift like this, they're going to slam it. Your rod tip's going to go in the water. You start cranking.
So I'm fishing that in gear. Right on.
Let your weight, see, we're using such a short leader. You let your weight hit the bottom, you feel it hit the bottom, you do like one crank up, depending on your gear ratio.
Okay.
About 2 feet above the bottom.
Okay. Yeah, I went slow and then I caught a rock.
Yeah, there's some boulders. It'll come loose though as soon as
Yeah.
you get near it.
I knew I was going to be coming out here to Virginia. I needed a guy local who had some kayaks, and Josh stepped up. I've been following a little bit on Facebook and through the kayak fishing team, and the guy is making some incredible catches. If you have a chance to follow him or look up some of his videos, he's caught some massive fish off his kayak.
So the audio was better. Then I was able to slide it and get it louder. I'm supposed to be able to adjust all of them, and so I'm not finding how to adjust you guys. But here we are at Yakatttack. If I can get it back
we're not
up.
getting on the water today. There's actually a hurricane warning in the area. But luckily, our good buddy Luther from Yakatttack does his business in this area. So we're at his super secret R&D location, and he's going to show us how the magic is done.
Basically, it was super secret that it was an incognito old grocery store / gas station that even I didn't know it was Yakatttack.
Luther, man.
So it's, I definitely, I mean, if you're ever in the area, and I'd say anytime soon, Jim, you know, coming back, I'd say doing a good refresher to, you know, seeing what Yakatttack is currently, you know, is vastly different than what it was.
Yeah. And so this is the old place, and you were saying you guys are in a totally new facility now, all under one roof. This place was very compartmentalized. I remember it was like, it was kind of a weird layout.
It was super. I mean, it was basically, I think it was an old, basically an old propane facility, but also I want to say even a grocery store at some point in time. But there was fleet pumps outside, so like it was very odd that it was never optimized for true manufacturing production. So like just the efficiencies we gain from being able to have more space and currently, I mean, even in this facility we're in right now, as we're doing a flip flop entirely of where we're getting our raw goods, where we're storing them, where production happens and where shipping happens, to even maximize it under one roof. But even looking back into these days where we were manufacturing potentially in 3 to 4 different buildings was mind-blowing to where we are nowadays. So but it's even funny looking at Luther in this screenshot where it's paused right now. He looks 15 years younger. Like he looks like a little baby in this picture compared to, you know, where we're at nowadays. So it's funny looking back into it.
Yeah. And well, the stresses of the last couple of years, I'm sure will.
A lot of stuff has happened since then. So we learned a lot, did a lot, and, you know, a lot has changed since.
So again, for anybody who's just tuning in, remember, if you comment, share this, you will be eligible for a $100 gift certificate from Yakatttack. So, and we'll be giving that 24 hours. So if you're watching this on the replay, not watching it live, you still have a chance to win. But make sure that you share this with some people. Let's keep it rolling.
Manufacturer out there. I mean, it's been a haul, but
Nothing says you mean
know
business
you're an
like wood
innovator.
paneling.
And so what we want to do is just kind of go over what maybe your process is.
I mean, in one room I painted it black, and I actually loved it. I loved it for a backdrop. It looked good black.
Yeah, man.
That's
Well,
awesome.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're problem solvers, right? That's what we do here pretty much every single day.
It's
People
funny that
know what
you
they
don't
need,
really
they know
know,
us, know
and
what the
I didn't never
problems are.
noticed it
Sometimes we
before,
learn
but
that
if you
stuff
look
on
at
the
the
water.
table,
And then it's
you
the
can
process is
see
really
basically
about
the
how to solve that
progression of
problem.
about
You know, we've
30
got a lot
different
of cool
prototypes
tools,
of
we've
the
got a lot of
Omega rod
techniques,
holder.
some of which are
Right.
conventional,
You
some
know,
of which
basically
yeah,
they're
wow.
3D printed. That I mean, we went through, I
I'd say
think
the
it was
thing that's
30
the most
revisions
constant
of
here
every
is product
feature, every
development. We're
you know,
always
little bit of
developing
geometry, every
Right, so you
angle
can
that
do
you can
multiple
kind of see where we landed
prototypes,
and where we
tweak,
finished up.
tweak.
And
With the
playing
3D
with that
printers
little
now, where you
3D
don't have to send it
printer.
out to somebody else to do.
I
You
mean,
can do that
they-
right here in house.
basically
right. I
one of
mean,
the
the
cheaper
more
3D printers. It actually
simple,
produces a great print, but
mechanically
nowadays
a
we have
product
this
gets, the
little
more difficult
giant
it
one
is
with two
sometimes to
heads,
get it
and it's
really
on this
functional
giant
or to make it into
pedestal,
a great
and
design.
but it's
Contraptions
3D
are much
printing
easier to
changes a
build
lot,
than
you know, when it
smooth,
comes to
simple,
prototyping.
well-functioning products. And sometimes the geometry that you need, the level of perfection that you need, even at the prototype stage to prove a concept out, it just goes beyond what you can do in the CAD environment. So 3D prints enable us to test those things in real world, to kind of see how it fits, to kind of see how it feels, to see how it looks on a kayak, and really start to get a feel for what the product's going to be like at the end without the expense of going to tool.
So the item you're going to show us today, you've got a new rod holder coming out.
Yeah.
New item for you. What's the process? Well, again, what did you go through to get to where you are now on this rod holder?
This is something that literally went from one afternoon, started on it. By that evening, said, this is probably far enough along to be worth printing. And then every single day for the next 10 days was another iteration. Just a little rundown here. So here you've got your typical bait caster. It's got the trigger on it. You're going to be able to drop this into the top of the rod holder. So you could use this as a tube, but you can also use it as an open style rod holder. It's got the little rotator on here that enables that, but it's also got the trigger catch on it. So when you do have this in the locked position, not only is the reel secure, but even in an open position, if something tries to pull straight out, it's not going to be able to pull it out, partly because of this, but partly because we got a little trigger catch here. So right away with your bait casters, you have, one mode, you have a more secure mode, a second mode, and then you have a third mode, which is essentially a tube. So you can see already you're starting to build a lot of versatility here.
So you're at, which number is that?
This is number 11. We've got number 12s on the printer right now. The final edition in number 12, which we think is the final, is really more aesthetics, balancing out the aesthetics of the rod holder. So that's kind of how it goes. At first, it's all about function. You get it figured out. First, and this is something sometimes we discuss with the product development team is, well, we want it to look cool. And it's like, well, yeah, we do, but let's wait to the end for that. Because the first thing, what we built our reputation on, it has to work well.
Right.
It has to work really well. And
function over fashion.
Definitely. Substance over style is another way to say that. And we say it all the time here. But that doesn't mean you have to give up the style.
Okay, so we've seen design, some prototyping. What's next?
Tooling.
Tooling.
Yep. So the next step is to create the tooling. We do that here as well. We got a pretty, I think, unique and innovative way of doing that, and all takes place back here.
Let's check it out, man.
Let's do it.
Well, apparently I should have watched the episode prior because you were going to totally talk about the number of prototypes that were laying there. So
That's all right. Like that. I mean, that's the whole thing is I don't even watch them ahead of time, so I don't really remember. But
welcome back to Jackson Kayak.
welcome back. That's Will.
Yeah. Dude, talk about somebody that's gotten themselves together too.
All right.
Between John and Will, they've lost a whole other person.
and he's in it, man. Like watching his, how fast I guess he's running 5Ks or, even kind of, it's funny that we've inspired each other because he says that I'm a big reason that he did what he did, but he doesn't know that me watching him run has made me want to run. So it was like 2 weekends ago, I just said, let's do it. So I went out and ran 13 miles and just wanted to see how far I could go. But watching him push it is doing the same thing for me. So it's kind of
you know what, makes me want to run? Bears.
I mean, they'll make it happen. Fear's a motivator. Fear's a great motivator.
That's about it. Yeah, and you know how you know that Will does CrossFit?
Because he talks about
Does
it.
tell you?
Because he tells you.
Yeah.
But no, I'm very proud of him. I mean, he has crushed it. He had had a health issue and turned it into a life change, and he's crushed it. And as you have, so it's very impressive. It is motivating. I'm losing weight. I promise.
It was easier for me to grow long hair, so I just went that route.
I did the COVID hair. I had that very long, and I had the goat down to about here, and
Yeah.
I shaved them off and cut my hair right before I cast. So let's look at this stuff. Keep this baby rolling.
Kayak's Kayak Fishing Show. This week, Jim is chasing big catfish in Virginia. While in the area, Jim is hooked up with Luther Cyphers of Yakattack to see how they make all the kayak fishing accessories that he relies on so much.
So we do a lot of high-speed machining here at Yakatttack of both the tracks, the aluminum tracks, and then also the plastic tracks. They get machined on the same type of machining center. And what we've got is this machine has a bunch of tools on it, and it has the ability to select whichever tool it needs for the particular operation. So the operators will load the tracks onto these fixture plates. Fixture plates go into the mill. They hit the start button. It's a very fast mill, very efficient mill. It runs around, drills all the holes, cuts all the slots, does all of that kind of stuff. When it's done, or while it's doing that, the operator will be loading another fixture plate. So that when it's done, they take the finished one out, they put the other one in, they hit start, and then they begin unloading.
All right, so you made the tools. What happens next?
Next is injection molding. Basically what you do is you take these pellets, these resin pellets, which are little pieces of plastic, and you put them into this heated screw basically that extrudes the plastic. As it augers the plastic down, it becomes molten. And at the very, very end, you've got fully molten plastic. That plastic gets shot into a mold where it immediately begins to cool down. You've got some cooling going on in the mold, plus the mold itself is cooler than the plastic. So as it cools, the plastic cools, it hardens, the machine opens up, and it pops the part out.
Oh man, you got some amazing stuff going on back there. Honestly, folks, would love to show you, but it really is proprietary, top secret stuff you got going on there. So you're just going to have to imagine it. So
I'm going to pause it right there. This was one of those times when we, before they were running every episode through me on QC, because there was a whole little bit there. We were going into an area that you literally weren't going to show us anything. And we had this kind of funny thing that we were doing. And then we went in and just came back out. And then they edited it and put one part at the beginning. And then we saw a bunch of stuff and then us coming out. So it totally didn't make any sense. That little segment made no sense.
It was a little out of line with the original. Basically, the original one was them. Honestly, I think they were making track for Orion coolers, judging by the hole pattern. But yeah, they went from, here's how we, make and manufacture track into kind of the whole injection molding thing. But I mean, there's something, I'm also the marketing guy, but I know there's some sort of technology built into how Luther and the team design the molds that is relatively proprietary and it allows us to make molds, relatively, or substantially less expensive than overseas tooling. And that allows us to do what we can do. But it's just so funny looking back into this time that, that injection molding machine, our new one, I mean, it's 5 times as big. I mean, the small one, you walk past it now and it looks like a little VW bus. And the new one looks like, I don't know, maybe even like a Tacoma, not even something, but there's bigger ones. But this was kind of that original time frame when we first learned kind of or developed the technology to injection mold to the level that we're at right now. And the part that you see on the screen was actually from the Leverlock anchor trolley that I want to say that we launched that in late 2015. So that's kind of when we started to really crank things up. So
Gotcha.
We're pushing about 5-6 years of real true, injection molding. And that to me, that's kind of has been that, next chapter of Yakatttack, kind of getting away from starboard and getting away from CNC products. So let's hope that trend continues, and there's only a couple left. So who knows what comes down the road next.
Yeah. And, you guys have been so innovative and, it's hard to think of, okay, what was the biggest innovation? I mean, the first thing, of course, you guys had the VisiCarbon pole light, but what do you think? What do you think is like the biggest? And I hate the term game changer, but the product that really has really changed things for kayak fishing. I mean, for me, it's that top loading gear track.
Yeah. And I'd say that was one of the biggest from like an OEM perspective. When that happened, it allowed kayak manufacturers to do a lot more of recess the track, and with the top loading, you don't even need entry points. So it made Orion coolers possible. And there's some other brands right now that are using that top loading track that it creates a unique environment that you can have I don't know, it was the Kilroy DT. I don't think Jackson makes the DT or even the Kilroy as it originally stood. But I think that it was a 99-inch piece of track that was utilized on the floorboard. And if it wasn't top loading and you have 3 or 4 accessories within that track, you got to take everything out to ever add anything. So
right.
I think, and I mean, to me, I guess there's the evolution of things is the track. I mean, we didn't create the track, or we didn't create track on kayaks. It was utilized before only by one brand. But at that time, I mean, they were about to kill it. They were about to take it off the boats because no one made accessories. So with us bringing it to the market from a DIY aftermarket perspective, started to change things a little bit. And then this also predates the top loading technology that came a little bit later. But that sheer fact that, almost every brand of kayak now sells their kayak with some sort of track on it. The majority of the brands are using authentic Yakattack gear track. If not, it's mostly all compatible. That changed how kayaks are sold. That changed how kayaks are rigged. I mean, that allows, both of you guys or even me to, one day if you want to go catch that, striper, in the Chesapeake, and the next day you drive down to Florida and catch that tarpon, you're able to change your gear set depending on what accessories, and whether one day you need a big graph to be able to locate that fish, or the next day whether you're going pretty clean where you need just one good trolling rod holder. The gear track has made that. And then for me, I would take that one step further. I'd say that lock and load system that was developed within that rod holder was one of the biggest, I would say, innovation pieces from us, because it really changed. It got away from, before that it was, all the other brands predominantly used a male and female interface, that the base was rectangular and they all looked the same and no one knew which brand was what, and it was all confusing. That if someone picks up a lock and load, product, whether it's a rod holder, or fish finder mount, or camera mount from us, they immediately know instinctually that it's Yakatttack. So we kind of took the vastly the road less traveled, off the beaten path compared to what was out there. So, but I'd say
vast improvement over what was out there.
I'd say I've
used it all.
And the root of that, I mean, it's the injection molding technology. That's the one piece from us that there's only so much you can do with HDPE and Starboard, to where that was where Yakatttack got started. But really what we grew and what allowed us to be innovators was Luther and his team with the mold making technology of what they developed. But it's also just the foundational aspect of being able to make everything in house. I think was that little bit of that secret sauce that we needed as a brand.
Yeah. And boy, that brand, and what you would really is not been that long of a period. I mean, like I said, from that VisiCarbon Pro to what you guys are doing now is pretty amazing.
Yep.
So let's get this thing rolling. We'll never finish.
We built all these parts. They've all dropped into a big box. What happens next?
Well, if they need degating, we degate them, which is to take them off of the sprues that they come out on, these little sticky things right here. So we would take the parts off of these, weigh them up, put them into a bin, pack them up, and then they're ready to go up to the other building for packaging, assembly, whatever needs to happen next.
Let's head up there.
Let's do it.
So Luther, I mean, I kind of said, made a comment before that, you really are like becoming the biggest manufacturer of kayak fishing accessories. And it sure seems like you're just growing. I mean, you started off with one place and now you've got 3 buildings.
Yeah.
And you got more plans. What's going on out here?
Yeah, I mean, the expansion has been a little bit faster than we could keep up with, so we've had to fragment things a little bit. But one of the things we're doing to kind of bring it all back together is this entire area here is going to be filled up with a manufacturing plant this time next year, actually probably sometime this year. So yeah, we're continuing to grow, continuing to expand. This is going to not only give us more space, but allow us to set up a little more efficiently. And as we're growing, we're trying to do things the right way. We recycle our scrap. We recycle our cardboard. Our coolant is water soluble, environmentally friendly for both the employees in the working area, also for the environment in general. So we're trying to do all that stuff responsibly. We're trying to do it the right way, and trying to grow some good homegrown talent in the process, create some jobs in a town that doesn't have a lot.
So you got a whole nother building here. What's going on in this building?
So this is where we do assembly, we do warehousing, packaging, and fulfillment. So we've got a couple of assembly lines here where we're putting the products together. For example, Carbon Pros require quite a bit of assembly. Some products go straight from injection molding straight to packaging. A lot of them require drilling, riveting, those types of things. So that's all done on these 2 lines here.
Actually, we were mentioning something earlier. I saw you guys have the flags for your VisiCarbon poles. That's kind of an interesting story. I mean, you've got them all labeled for different distributors and retailers.
Yep.
And you said basically your wife's doing that.
Yeah, so basically it's kind of a value add we do just to show our dealers a little bit of love. They get to have their shop logo on the Carbon Pros that they're selling. We've got a network of, I guess, about a half a dozen local seamstresses that do the sewing. So there's a network of people in the area here that also kind of participate in what's going on here.
So this is the final step, getting it in the package.
That's right. Put in retail packaging. Kaylee here is taking GTSL 4-inch tracks, put them in the packaging. We're going to add some hardware, put on a header card. They go into finished goods. Orders come in, we fill the orders, put them in boxes, and ship them all over the world.
That's amazing. All over the world now.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Well, you know what? There's a lot of great products here. I think we need to go test some out. What do you say?
I think that's a plan.
Let's go fishing.
Let's do it, Jim.
I don't remember if he actually went fishing with us, did he?
Yeah, he did.
Well, he didn't. I don't think he didn't come with the Richmond River adventure. I think he followed you with Siegler the following day or so. That we kind of swapped places. Now I'm back to man the fort, and then he hopped in the kayak. So he came later on.
Right. It's like, my memory's not so good.
Downtown James River here in Richmond, Virginia. We have blue cats all the way up to 80 to 100 pounds that swim upriver here, chasing these shad. These shad move up from the ocean to do their spawning business, and the big cats follow them. So we could very likely run into an absolute giant today, but we will catch a good number of fish regardless.
Never say that.
I know. As soon as I heard it.
I'm telling you. That's the way
Josh, what is the biggest blue cat that you do have out of the James?
Much better weather. Yesterday
I have a
was
couple right at 65
windy
pounds.
and rough. Today it's very cold.
But they're a lot bigger.
Much better
If you
weather.
go farther downriver
Go out
towards
there.
kind of Hampton area, they get massive.
It's time for a little road trip.
Yeah, wouldn't be a bad idea. Need a redo, Jim. This video is kind of painful to me watching it all these years later.
Well, I think you do that, and then you got to do a little Northern Virginia big snakehead trip.
Yeah. We need a redo. Run this thing back.
Well, it's a deal. I was actually talking to one of my sponsors today about what shoots I'm planning for the for 2022. So we'll figure it out. Snakeheads are fun.
There you go.
I've snakeheads and bowfin. I mean, they're fun.
Yeah. I got one area I fished that you can get big snakes like that, and then you can literally switch gear in 5 minutes and end up catching 40 or 50 pound blue cats. So all of the tidal water in Northern Virginia is pretty abundant with life. So it could easily make a pretty interesting show out of that for sure.
Yeah. Just don't guarantee it. Well, since we're paused,
Yeah.
may as well take a couple of real quick questions or comments here. Eric Gadsden, Yakattack question: would 3M have any issues with YA Yakattack using the slogan, "We don't make the kayak, we make the kayak better"?
I mean, I don't know about the trademark of the legality, but I think you're right with the statement that you know. I mean, for
That's
us,
going to be on a
use-
T-shirt tomorrow.
Done. So it's on a decal. It's going to print it in the morning. But
There you go.
we just make it easier. You know, we make, you know, talking to a lot of bass boat anglers this past week at the Kayak Bass Fishing Expo that were just there, seeing what was going on. Everything has to have a home. You know, everything has to have a place, and that allows you to make your time on the water more efficient, more effective. So I agree with it.
Kevin, does Yakattack develop bump boards? There's no real good way to store a bump board on a kayak. Something to think about.
Oh, so I guess it's kind of two questions. The bump board, I would love to have one a long time ago, but I think we've kind of abandoned ship on that one. The way to store it, you know, that's always something we've discussed, but we had an old solution for just specifically the hog trough. We did discontinue it because the hog trough kind of got kind of black sheep, and no one uses it anymore. So really right now we don't have anything, but potentially, I don't know, maybe down the road.
When you're talking about a bump board, is that like the catch?
Yep. Basically your measuring device, whether it's, predominantly used in your bass tournaments, but even, there's your inshore tournaments that use specific, measuring devices or bump boards, but
Okay.
yeah, nothing right now.
Yeah, it's for bass. I don't know what it is. How was, just really quick, I mean, we're going way over. So how was the national championship?
It was good. I mean, they put up some of the biggest numbers. I think Chad said that they had the biggest 2-day totals, but also the biggest 3-day totals. I mean, I think one day an angler got, I think it was 105.75 inches for 5 fish. That
Wow,
pretty outstanding. I mean, I think Guillermo had 303.75 inches for the whole tournament, and I might be off there, but
That's insane.
You had to throw up some massive numbers. And they honestly, and the guys in the top 5 right there, they were all fishing together. They were all helping each other kind of get to the water because the lake was down so much because they drop it to help kill some, really like some crazy vegetation that just spreads like wildfire. So they had to drag their kayaks. I think it was like 200 yards or so to get into the launch point. And so they were spending 2 hours every morning dragging their boats through like, knee deep mud, trying to get all their gear in. And they weren't even fishing the body of water that won it like 2 years ago and what predominantly most anglers were on. So it kind of just shows the sheer power of that area. Like, I mean, the East Texas, Louisiana, kind of Shreveport area produces some big old fish, and there were guys saying that every 4 or 5 casts that it was a guaranteed, 4 or 5 pound fish, and then the occasional, 9 pound, or even some guys were catching. I think the biggest, honestly, old EJ, he had, 2 days, the large big bass at like almost close to 25.5 inches. So
Wow.
Pretty giant fish. So overall, I mean, the tournament went real smooth.
Chad does a great job on those things. I mean, like I said, it's not my world, but from what I've seen, he does a really good job on that whole tournament series and then the national championship and everything else. So just out of curiosity, so it's not restricted to one lake?
Yeah, no. So essentially, typically it's a radius, of whether it's a 50-mile radius, but I think within that specific tournament, I think you had roughly 5 bodies of water. But then there is somewhat of a cutoff point, whether it's like a, north of this or south of this dam or north of this point. So, but they had roughly, I think it was 5 different bodies of water they could fish. And it's all digital. You just take pictures with that bump board or that measuring device. And
Right.
Chad's building in some technology into, the identifiers and what needs to be in the photo to kind of help prevent cheating and keep people honest.
That's good. And I know that has been an issue. I'm sure they really have to stay on top of that. Bobby Daler Tucker, what all bait do you use to catch gar? Josh?
So I'll make it quick. Alligator gar, it's typically mullet, buffalo, or one of the species of carp, all non-game fish species. They're usually cut into cut bait, usually about the size of a softball. Your other gar species, like what we have in Virginia, long-nosed gar, I typically use live bluegill or live shiners, live goldfish. Live bait tends to work the best up here. So it fluctuates a little bit depending on which species you're targeting.
Do you prefer the head or the middle section?
Man, the head, when you're using any sort of cut bait, the head always seems to be what they go after. So that's kind of the golden nugget when it comes to cut bait, whether it's for catfish or gar or anything really. So
I had my question then. You say mullet, buffalo, or carp. Are buffalo not carp?
They're not. So technically a sucker in the sucker family?
Yes, this gets a little bit out of my expertise, and I don't want any of those rough fish dudes to eat me alive here. But carp, grass carp, common carp, your mirror carp, those are all from the Asiatic part of the world. Big mouth buffalo, small mouth buffalo, quillback carp sucker, those are all native to the United States, and they're a different kind of classification, where your bass isn't a true bass. It's more of a sunfish, and your striped bass are actual true bass. It's kind of like that. So it's a little confusing on the surface, but if you pay more attention to it, it's pretty easy to figure out.
Yeah, it's just like I said, I love learning about different species and all that.
Oh, yeah.
I had always thought buffalo were just a carp, but I don't have them here that I know of. Let's see. Chuck, hey, John, any thoughts on a Yaka version or a Yak version of the Ram X grip?
So, I mean, that's definitely something we need. I mean, kind of going back to that era, a phone holder is something that's still missing from the product line. So definitely I would say hot on the priority list is getting you guys the ability for, a good place to store your phone, that's safe and secure.
And Dave says they look alike only by convergent evolution, same as a bowfin and to a snakehead.
Yep. So David Graham is my buddy from Florida who went on the alligator gar trip. He's very intelligent when it comes to all of the fish classification species and all that stuff. But essentially what he's saying, a bowfin is to a snakehead as a buffalo is to a carp. They look similar, but they are different. So
gotcha.
Are you fishing with David for that Goliath grouper? You said this weekend or next weekend?
Yeah. So I'm working in a nuclear power plant this week. So if all goes well and I survive that, should be heading down to Fort Myers, Florida area Thursday into Friday, and we'll have 3 days and nights chasing those Goliaths. So it's pretty crazy. You take big cut bait in a center block, you paddle it out to these bridge pillars, you drop it down. One guy's manning the reel on the beach, the other guy's taking the bait out, and it's very intense. It's more like wrestling. It's more wrestling an animal than it is actually fishing. Once that fish picks up the bait, they're around these pylons, so you have to pretty much crank down and run up the beach, and you're literally you're playing tug of war with a creature that's usually bigger than the average human being. So it's pretty insane. But David,
down that dragon, hang on.
Oh yeah, but David's a great fisherman. He's a great guy. He is basically my co-host in this thing we're building. So if anybody watching this wants to check him out, his Instagram is Boundless Pursuit. He's got a bunch of cool photos and all that stuff, same as I do. So check him out as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, let's hit this last little segment of this show while I'm standing here with my Orion cup.
And look for some shad, put them out, and hopefully get on these big cats or stripers that Josh promised me.
Oh my God.
Well, when Jim and the guys told us they were coming in the beginning of April, I was kind of...
Oh, I had to mute myself. Oh my God.
Day one, we were blown off the water, had strong winds. We had to take refuge in an area that Wasn't exactly ideal for big catfish, but we made do. The second day, generally like to drift for them, which produces a lot better numbers, and you can find a lot bigger fish doing that. But we ended up having to anchor up and let the fish come to us.
Snag herring.
Yeah, this is a herring.
It's still kayak fishing if I'm fishing near my kayak, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know what
sometimes
the
that's a
Yeah,
good
100-foot
strategy.
distance.
It's get out of the boat.
Watch
you
out,
know.
100-foot.
I think we were dealing
So
with
your
just
kayak fishing.
insane current or something. I know
Yeah.
that judging by the bank
funny
right
when
here, the
you
water is
skip them
definitely
across
up a
the
lot.
surface. You know it's a good
That's
bite.
low
Oh,
tide
yeah.
and the water's still really high. So
Wearing out.
Now that
Well,
one.
I think the boat traffic. I think there was just
Look
an
at that one.
absurd
Come
amount
on.
of guys out there during
Yeah.
that shad run.
So white perch.
That
Yeah.
it
technically
just
is
we
a
were
new
getting so
species for
blown.
them,
I think the
so
wind was howling, the
let's
boat
remember
traffic
that.
was
Gotta put it on the
crazy,
list.
and
White perch.
We were dealing
we were
with
trying to
super
stay
murky
stationary
water,
to
made
get
it
that
almost
bait quick.
impossible to catch shad. But
Yeah.
we managed to get one.
yeah, it was as bad as it could have been, I think.
Heavy currents and kayak
Conditions-wise.
plus the wind, it just wasn't conducive to us really having great success while trying to catfish.
So a piece of gear that you will rarely see me on the water without, I'm all about safety, is my Standard Horizon VHF 870 radio. I really like having a VHF radio for the safety factor. It's got a GPS function. You can put in waypoints. It's got a distress button, which I can hit. It'll send out my GPS coordinates. All waterproof, submersible. They float. If you accidentally drop one in the water, it actually has a strobe light that'll light up so you can see where you've dropped it. That's my Standard Horizon VHF radio. Check them out.
Check them out.
All right, so we're drifting this channel edge right here. It essentially goes from 16 feet down to 22 feet. So these big catfish hang right on that channel edge, usually down near the bottom. So they can run up, eat if they need to, and then run back down to the relative safety of deep water. But anywhere within, a 30-foot, well, really anywhere within a 30-yard swath right in through here, you're going to find big fish.
Oh man, I think that right there was the only
about
fish
a-
I hooked the entire
Yeah.
trip, and I
5 to
think
8
I
pounder
threw it.
with-
Yeah,
A shad head from a shad that was almost as long as he is.
that's a monster.
And he doesn't want to let it go.
I mean, I never watched the episode, so I was thinking, I was like, I don't know if a single catfish was caught that trip, but
And our
I'm glad that one was landed.
tiny little blue
Yeah,
cat.
yeah.
These dudes.
I mean,
get
it was,
about-
I don't remember being that muddy, but
uh,
seeing that
50
image
times the
of,
size of
Jim on
this.
that rock, right at the beginning,
Yeah.
it was pure chocolate milk with all that hurricane coming through and all that, just rain advisory we had for the previous days.
Yay,
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
dude!
you can see my
He couldn't
excitement.
have crammed
Yeah.
that shad head in his mouth anymore.
Woo.
Yeah,
You had to tell the story. I mean, it was the true story of pain and heartache and
Well,
the
that's the
hard work
thing.
and dedication.
On our
Yeah.
show, we never fake it. So it is what it is. You go out there, you work hard, and
Well, yeah, what can we say? We had a couple of days of rain, really heavy winds. The river's high. It's dirty. We've struggled. But we've had a great time fishing with these guys in a beautiful location.
I just
hope you
remember, I
enjoyed
think
the
it was
show.
one of the first
Stick
times you were
around for
flying your
more
drone,
adventures
Josh.
next week.
yeah. I was.
I don't know if it was one of the first, but like you went up and it took you like 10 minutes to get it going. Once you did, there was a bunch of osprey trying to attack it.
oh,
Yeah,
that's right.
And it almost took it out, I think. It went after it
Yeah.
pretty hard.
That drone was not a good version of what a drone should be. That was early consumer droning. It was
It
one
wasn't
like the-
DJI. It wasn't.
No, it was one that Amazon clearanced out, and they said it was like a $1,200 drone, and it really wasn't. And like the GoPro clipped on it, and like it was this whole like conglomeration of gear. And yeah, as soon as I set it up, like ospreys are dive bombing it, and I'm watching it on my phone, literally just to the right of where Jim is standing in that photo. And I'm like looking, I'm like, what was that? They're like turned and there's a bird like looking at me. I'm like, oh my God, I had to get it to the ground as fast as I could. It was
I remember.
Well, I just remember
that.
you're about to dip it as well. Like it was inches away from the water, because I think it was kind of the Ospreys, like that was the first plan of attack, was get it away from the birds, and then like the water was creeping up, and it would have been a rough day.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I actually forgot to mention this. I lost a drone in Idaho, so that was a DJI, and that did hurt. So
one more. Did you lose it in the water?
Yeah. I was out getting just some B-roll shots and ran the battery low, and it was out over the water, and it was 100 feet from me. Well, it went into this auto land mode that I couldn't override, and I was so close to the water, like it was in the water before I even knew what happened. So somebody is going to find a DJI drone at the bottom of the Snake River with this awesome footage of carp swimming through this grass. So if you happen to find that, you know who it came from. So
we've all lost cameras and drones. We were in Canada, and Brooks lifted a drone off. He had it on a rock right next to the river, and he lifted off, and it went boom, straight into the river, and it was a brand new drone.
That's painful.
Yeah, we've all lost equipment, you know.
The worst part is it was the most routine, like can of corn flight ever, and the day before that I was flying it down this canyon in like 40-mile-per-hour winds, getting all this epic footage. That went fine, but taking a 5-minute flight over some water killed it immediately. So you
just get comfortable with it, and that's what watching that battery is. I don't know. It's one of those. It's kind of like what we were talking about the trip on the ones that you didn't struggle or didn't have any heartaches. You're not going to remember it, but like on the routine, this is simple. Yeah. You tend to not watch your variables as much, and the battery for me, I look at 20%. I'm going home. You know, like I'm getting it back. That I don't want. My nightmare is when it goes in that auto landing mode and it's over water and it doesn't care. You know, like I've had that happen close and caught it right before, but you know, that one wasn't a bad situation. You in a boat, it's a little bit more difficult to get in the right spot, and whether it's shallow, whether it's rocky, or in some shoals. So
well, I hope you at least had offloaded that footage from the day before you.
Oh yeah, every night we came back, unloaded everything, took it back out. So, like you said, the Texas trip we didn't catch as many big fish, but we had so much insane stuff happen that I'm finding editing that footage is a whole lot easier to tell the story than us going to Idaho and catching 8 fish over 7 foot. That's harder to do because there wasn't a whole lot of struggle. We just kind of went out and it was happening. So from a storytelling standpoint, Texas that's going to be a cakewalk to edit because
that other stuff just makes a better story, and I think makes better shows. I mean, like I said, back to the losing gear and all that. We were in Costa Rica. Got some great. The water was crystal clear. Schools of fish underneath us. Dorados swimming through them. I mean, just insane. The next day we go upriver, and the guys had all grabbed the stuff and threw it on the camera boat, and somebody didn't grab my camera mount. So Brooks goes, "Well, I've got one of these clip-on ones."
Oof.
So we clip it onto the back of my seat, and we're in the river, and I turn and I knock it off. We had never downloaded any of the wonderful footage, and the water was never clear like that again.
That's brutal.
So Joey Pruitt said, if you used a kayak to get there, it's kayak fishing. I want to tell a little story about that, just because we've run so far over. Why not keep going? I was a guide for a very, very long time kayak fishing, and I used to guide down in Mexico. And I had a group of guys all from Texas come down on one of my trips down into Baja. Experienced kayak anglers. Well, we go down to Baja. We're big game kayak fishing. We're getting tuna, dorado, roosterfish, marlin, sails. And these guys were all experienced kayak fishermen. Well, it actually turned out they exactly did that. They used their kayaks to get to places and then wade fished. So none of them really had the experience of actually fighting or landing or dealing with a fish and all their gear while on the kayak. there was a lot of broken rods and lost gear
Yeah.
on that trip.
I can only imagine.
High stick in and all that. So yeah, we'll still call it kayak fishing, even if as long as you use the kayak to get there, but it's still, you gotta fight a fish from a kayak to actually call it kayak fishing. Really.
So Joey's in that realm. He's actually our designer. So he actually makes all the cool stuff that we sell. But I mean, he comes from the Kentucky River. Like, he loves fishing the river. Anytime we talk about going to fish the river, that if it's too hairy and you get out, you pop on some shoals and fish it, that's a good opportunity. But like what you were saying about the Texas guys, really just getting to a spot, but then going after rooster fish and sails, I ended up getting a tarpon last year, and the only thing that prepped me for that was some striper and some big catfish from back in the day. That, if you don't know how to handle those fish, I mean, specifically the fish that both of you guys go after, I basically had a 101 course. It was one giant. I mean, it was a big king mackerel that it ended up getting tangled in my Mirage Drive that the first day, and I was just so bummed. I was just like, because that was the first real fish that really was pull and drag, and really fighting hard to understand how I was going to be able to handle it, and really the body movement you needed and the actions you needed. But then it was next cast, and like 3 minutes later was a sailfish. So it was kind of one of those that everything aligned. But the tarpon the next day was, to me, that's the most fun I've ever had in a rod and reel. That I just hearing Josh talk about going to go target some Goliath grouper, I was like, please, next time that one happens, I want to be on board, because that tarpon was kind of my mind opening experience to say that I kind of don't care about a whole lot of small fish now, and I want to find the big critters.
I've always said if we had tarpon here in San Diego, I would fish for them every day. I mean, I love tarpon fishing. They're just, I mean, when you got a big fish that also is so acrobatic, I mean, that's just good fun. Good fun. Let's see. We had just a couple more comments here. Fisherama subscribed over at Kayak Fishing Tales. How come I've never heard of this channel? I don't know. We've been around for a really long time, but tell your friends. Make sure more people know. And again, those of you who are just joining or whatever, we are giving away $100 certificate to Yakatttack, to somebody who does comment and shares. And we will keep that open for the next 24 hours so that the people who are watching on the replay have that opportunity as well. Chuck Wren says 2 words, bull reds. Yeah, reds are fun. And when you're sight fishing them particularly, I never understood the allure of redfish, because they're not quite as strong as the yellowtail and stuff that I like to catch. But when I was able to sight cast to redfish, that was a whole different ball game. That just, like, you could see where that got so exciting and all that. So
yeah.
Anyway, guys, we got to wrap it up because we've run way over, but I want to make sure that people know how to find you, Josh, so people can see those photos of those amazing fish you've been catching, and maybe we'll, keep following you till you do have that show. How are people going to find you?
Best way right now, Instagram, havrods_will_travel. That's where I'm loading all of the content, photos, and just kind of showing everybody the process of all this through the Instagram stories and all that stuff. So content wise, that'd be the best. You can also follow me on YouTube. Just look up Have Rods Will Travel on YouTube as well. You'll see some stuff on there. Like I said, we're going down to Florida this weekend to do the Goliath thing. I'll probably hang out a day or two just to mess with some of the exotic stuff. So I'll do more of a standard YouTube upload from that. Just kind of like a truck camping fishing thing. So it's a little less informal than what we're working on. But if you want to follow the video content, you can do that there as well. So I'd love for you guys to follow along with what I do. Really enjoy this stuff. Jim's been a huge inspiration. John's been with me from the beginning with Yakatttack, so it's been great being here today. And I really hope whoever watches this, hope we all 3 of us inspire you in some way. And if you feel the need to follow me and the desire to follow me, I welcome you.
Awesome. And John, Yakatttack, how people going to, I mean, you guys got so much stuff on that website. You guys have so many products now. Where are people looking for Yakatttack? I know you've got Facebook, Insta, but also the website.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook, Instagram, I'm in a great spot. That, I mean, we run some fun, cool giveaways that actually right now, like we took our black pack and I wrapped it in a like a pirate's chest, and we're doing a fun Halloween giveaway that you just got to guess how many pieces of candy's in there. So just, go to our website at yakattack.us and you'll find that giveaway. But that also gives you an opportunity to you can find see if you have a local Yakattack dealer near you. And we're always coming out with cool new stuff, and we've got a lot of unique products coming down the pipeline. So check us out at yakattack.us, Instagram, YouTube, and on Facebook.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you guys so much. That was a lot of fun. Like I said, normally these things go an hour. We ran way over, but that was super fun. Even like I said, and that's the thing. We had a super tough trip, but we had a great time. And that's what it's all about. And just, those memories and everything else is so cool. And Josh, like I said, what you're doing right now is so cool. And like I said, I've been able to follow that stuff that you were doing is really cool. And I'm really looking forward to seeing actually some more video of that, because, I've caught both of those species, and I think we got a 9.5-foot sturgeon. But it was a giant. It was anemic. Anorexic.
Yeah.
It was a long, skinny one, but
right.
That's super fun fish, and those big alligator gar. Like I said, such cool stuff. So I'm really looking forward to see that video. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. And thank everybody again for joining us here today. I know it was a little bit longer show than normal, but please, please, please share this with your friends. Make some comments. You still got 24 hours and have the ability to get that $100 gift certificate from Yakattack. We'll be drawing the winner sometime tomorrow, but you need to share this. You need to comment. Like I said, even if you're watching it on the replay, that's still good. So thank you guys all for joining us. I hope you have a really good day. If you are going out on the water, please remember, always wear your PFD and keep your paddle right side up.